It was a Tuesday afternoon, nothing special about it, no holiday, no vacation, no reason I should have been home at 3 in the afternoon. But I was. I was standing on my front porch, watching the shadow of an oak tree slowly move across the grass, when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Naomi stepped out. I hadn't seen her in almost 2 years. For a second, neither of us said anything. She looked at the house, then at me, then back at the house again, and she smiled. Not a jealous smile. Not exactly. It was the kind of smile people make when they're happy for you, but something inside them is also doing the math. "Look at you," she said. I laughed, and for some reason, my hand went to the old leather wallet in my pocket. Inside it was a $20 bill, soft from age, creased down the middle. The ink near one corner almost faded. I had carried that same $20 bill for 15 years, never spent it. Naomi didn't know that. Nobody did. 15 years earlier, she and I had started at the same hospital in Tulsa within the same week. Same building, similar shifts, same pay. $9.50 an hour. Back then, we lived in cheap apartments with walls so thin I could hear my neighbor's television after midnight. We drank gas station coffee, sat on cracked plastic chairs, and said the kind of thing broke 20-somethings always say. One day, things are going to be different. We were right. We just didn't understand how different. Because 15 years later, I could stand on my own porch on a Tuesday afternoon without asking anyone for permission. And Naomi still checked her banking app before ordering lunch. The strange part is this: there was never one day when our lives suddenly split apart. There was no lottery ticket, no secret investment, no overnight business success. The difference was built on days so ordinary, nobody would have noticed them. Not even us. I was 22 when I started at the hospital. After taxes, I brought home somewhere around $1,100 a month. My room was $410. My monthly bus pass was $63. Then there was food, laundry, phone service. Whatever random thing broke that month. There was never much left. Naomi worked in the administrative office. I spent most of my time cleaning, moving equipment, checking inventory, and slowly learning how to calibrate medical devices. Neither of us thought of it as a career. It was a job, a place to stand until life began. One month, I opened my first real bank account. I felt strangely proud of that little debit card. It made me feel more adult than I actually was. Then one morning, I checked my balance. Something was wrong. An $11 subscription I'd forgotten about had gone through. My balance had dropped too low. Then the bank charged me another $35 for insufficient funds. $35. Today, that number doesn't sound dramatic. At 22, $35 was food. It was bus fare. It was the difference between making it to payday and not making it. I stared at that cracked phone screen for a long time. I didn't call the bank. I didn't complain. I was embarrassed. Like the number on the screen somehow proved I was bad at being an adult. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. For 4 days, I ate instant noodles. Thursday night, Naomi texted me. A few people from work were going out. Food, drinks, maybe $20 or $25. I typed, "Can't tonight." A few seconds later she replied, "Come on, you always say that." I remember staring at that message, because she wasn't being cruel. She was right. I did always say that. And at 22, saying no doesn't feel like discipline. It feels like you're being left behind. That night, I got off the bus one stop early. There was a little discount store near the station. I walked inside and bought a cheap brown wallet, $5. I barely needed it. But before I left, I took one $20 bill from my pocket and slid it into the deepest compartment. Then I made myself a promise. I would never spend that 20. It wasn't an emergency fund. It wasn't an investment strategy. I didn't know enough about money to have a strategy. I just needed proof that there was one thing in my financial life I could control. The bank had taken $35 from me. Life seemed to take something every week. But this 20 was staying. The next few years were painfully unimpressive. My pay went from $9.50 an hour to $10.25, 75 cents. Nobody threw a party. Nobody took a picture. Nothing about my life looked different. But I started doing one thing. I opened a high-yield savings account on my phone. Then I set an automatic transfer, $50, every month, right after payday. The money disappeared before I had enough time to think about spending it. At first I hated that transfer. $50 felt huge. Then I got used to not seeing it. Around that time, I started talking to Mr. Okafor. He worked maintenance. Older guy, quiet, always arrived early. Every morning, he'd sit in the same corner of the break room with black coffee and an old leather notebook. One day, the coffee machine broke. I was standing there hitting the button like pressing it harder might fix it. Mr. Okafor looked up and asked me something. "Have you ever thought about what your paycheck is actually paying for?" I laughed. "Rent, gas, food, stupid stuff." He nodded. That was it. No lecture, no financial advice. He went back to his notebook, but the question followed me home. What was my paycheck actually paying for? The next morning, instead of stopping for a $2.10 coffee at the gas station, I made one at home. $2.10 didn't make me rich. Neither did the next day's $2.10, or the day after that. But the habit did something else. It changed what I paid attention to. Meanwhile, Naomi was doing well, really well. She got promoted to administrative coordinator. The office bought a cake. Everyone clapped. That weekend, she bought a brand new hatchback. It looked incredible. Clean interior, touchscreen, no mystery noises when it started. Then Nashville pictures appeared online. Restaurants, hotel rooms, drinks, new clothes. My car was 9 years old. The check engine light had been glowing orange for so long that I started thinking of it as part of the dashboard design. Every morning, I parked next to Naomi's shiny car. Every afternoon, I got into mine, and there were days when I genuinely wondered if I was an idiot. I was 24. Why was I living like I was preparing for retirement? Why was everyone else enjoying life while I was moving $50 into an account nobody could see? One night, I opened the banking app, $600. After more than a year, 600 year. I almost laughed. Naomi's car probably lost more than that in value the week she drove it off the lot. And that was the problem with doing the quiet thing. In the beginning, the quiet thing looked stupid. By year 5, I had started learning more. Nothing sophisticated. I wasn't reading stock charts at midnight. I wasn't trying to predict the next big company. Mr. Okafor had once mentioned broad index funds. Own a small piece of everything. Keep buying. Leave it alone. So during a lunch break, sitting in my car, I opened a Roth IRA. I put $500 into it. Almost all the extra money I had outside savings. Then I bought a total market index fund and turned on automatic dividend reinvestment. 6 weeks later, the market dropped. My $500 became $461. $39 gone. At least, that's how it felt. I remember sitting in that same car, staring at a red number. My thumb hovered over the sell button. All the fear from that first $35 bank fee came back. That old feeling. You're bad at this. Get out before it gets worse. I almost sold. Instead, I turned the phone face down on the passenger seat. Then I went back inside and finished my shift. I checked again later. The market had moved slightly higher. Nothing dramatic. But something changed in me. For the first time, doing nothing had been the decision. And because the transfers were automatic, more money kept buying while prices were lower. I didn't feel brave. The system simply kept going when my emotions wanted to stop. Naomi kept moving too. Another promotion. Then a newer SUV. $380 a month. 6 years. She looked successful. And maybe in many ways, she was. That's what made the comparison dangerous. This wasn't a story about one smart person and one foolish person. Naomi worked hard. She earned more than I did. She was competent. People liked her. But our money had slowly started moving in opposite directions. Her raises expanded her lifestyle. Mine expanded the distance between what I earned and what I needed. Around year 7, I entered what I now think is the hardest part of any long-term change, the middle. I didn't belong with the people in the break room talking about new cars, weekend shopping, or how much they could finance. But I didn't belong with the executives either. They talked about investment properties and six-figure portfolios. I had neither. I remember standing in a hospital hallway one afternoon. Through one door were coworkers laughing over takeout. Through another were managers talking about money I couldn't imagine having. I stood between the two rooms holding a vending machine water. I felt invisible. Mr. Okafor walked past me, then stopped. He looked at me for a second. Hard part? I nodded. He smiled. This is where people quit. I asked him what he meant. He said, "Not at the bottom, the middle. At the bottom, pain gives you motivation. In the middle, nothing happens." I asked him, "So what happens next?" He shrugged. "Nothing." I laughed. He continued, "Nothing for a long time. Then a lot of things happen at once. Usually later than you wanted." And then he walked away. In year 8, one of our old coworkers had a birthday dinner. I almost didn't go. But I did. Devin arrived late and spent the first 15 minutes telling everyone about his new truck. $58,000. Beautiful truck. Huge screen, leather seats, everything. Someone asked his interest rate. Devin laughed. Interest rate is just a detail. Everyone laughed with him. Glasses went up. Phones came out. Pictures were taken. Then somebody turned to me. "So what about you? What's new?" I paused. "Nothing much. Still working." They nodded. And the conversation moved on. 8 years of $50 here, $70 there. Automatic transfers. Weekend spreadsheets, skipped upgrades, index funds. None of it made a good photograph. Nobody asks you to stand beside your emergency fund and smile. Nobody brings a cake because your expenses stayed flat for another year. On the drive home, I sat in my car and opened a spreadsheet I had been updating almost every Sunday night. Savings, Roth IRA, brokerage account, minus what I still owed on my old car. Total net worth, $19,000. I stared at it. Then I thought about Devin's $58,000 truck. And for the first time, I understood something. We had both left the same restaurant. But we were living inside two completely different kinds of math. His wealth was visible. His obligation was hidden. Mine looked invisible. But the ownership underneath it was real. I didn't feel superior. That's important. Because I was still driving home with an orange check engine light. I wasn't rich. $19,000 wasn't going to impress anyone. And that night, the doubt came back. What if this never becomes enough to matter? What if my entire life becomes a spreadsheet nobody ever sees? I closed the laptop, set the alarm. 6:15 a.m. The next morning it rang. I got up, and the system continued. Year 9 was when everything changed, but not in the way I had imagined. Rumors started inside the hospital. Regional merger, hiring freeze, restructuring, closed-door meetings. People lowered their voices when managers walked past. Then one morning, Mr. Okafor's name was called. He came back 20 minutes later carrying a cardboard box. His mug, notebook, a few tools. Years of his life reduced to something he could carry with one hand. Before leaving, he came over to me. We shook hands. He looked at the notebook on my desk. By then, I had started keeping one too. "Keep the book running," he said. Then he left. 3 months later, my name was called. A manager slid an envelope across a desk. There were words like restructuring, regional efficiency, position eliminated. I don't remember most of them. I remember the handshake. It lasted too long. I packed my things, then walked to the employee exit. I swiped my badge. Beep, red light. I tried again. Beep, red. That card had opened that door thousands of times. Now it didn't know me. 8 years in the building, and the building had forgotten me before I reached the parking lot. I sat inside my car while rain hit the windshield. Messages started appearing. "Sorry, man. Let me know if you need anything. You'll find something." I didn't answer. That evening, I opened my laptop. New document. Resume. I stared at the blank page. Then my eyes moved to another tab. The spreadsheet. 9 years of boring decisions. Savings. Investments. Cash reserves. Low expenses. No giant car payment. No consumer debt hanging over me. The old $5 wallet was sitting beside the laptop. I pulled out the $20 bill. It was softer now. I held it for a while, and then a thought entered my mind. What if all of this wasn't a backup plan? What if this was the plan? For years, I thought I was saving money so I could survive an emergency. But maybe money wasn't buying survival. Maybe it had been buying choice. That night, for the first time in my adult life, I closed the resume. I started small. A dental office needed equipment checked. Then a small clinic needed a maintenance job. A friend of a former coworker needed help installing something. I had spent years learning skills nobody had ever applauded. Now those skills could be sold directly. The first months were unpredictable. 1 week, nothing. Then suddenly one job would pay what I used to make in several weeks. The old version of me would have panicked during the empty weeks. But my life was cheap to operate. I had reserves. I had investments I didn't need to touch. No huge payments were chasing me every month. For the first time, low expenses didn't feel like deprivation. They felt like armor. By year 12, a woman named Priya called me from a larger medical practice. They needed a substantial installation and calibration package. I prepared everything: pricing, timeline, a little speech about why they should choose me. We got on the phone. I started presenting. She stopped me. "We don't need bids from anyone else." I thought I'd misunderstood. She continued. "We called you because we trust you." That sentence stayed with me. For years, I thought success meant winning the next job, convincing the next person, chasing the next opportunity. But eventually, the work you do starts speaking before you enter the room. Your reputation compounds, your skill compounds, your relationships compound, your confidence compounds. And yes, money compounds too. By then, the Roth IRA and brokerage accounts had numbers in them that my 23-year-old self would have considered impossible. But the strangest part was that the numbers no longer affected me the way I thought they would. I still had the $20 bill, 13 years old now, faded, worn thin at the fold. It wasn't money anymore. It was evidence. Evidence that I could make one decision, and keep making it, when nobody was watching. Which brings me back to that Tuesday afternoon. Naomi walked around the house slowly. She looked through the window into my office, then at the calendar on the wall. Several weekdays were blank. Not accidentally blank. Deliberately blank. She turned toward me. "I don't understand." I didn't say anything, she continued. "We started at the same place, $9.50 an hour. I got promoted before you. I made more money. I bought the things we used to talk about buying." Then she looked across the yard. "When did it flip?" I knew what she meant. When did I pass her? When did her life become filled with payments, and mine become filled with time? When did I stop needing the next paycheck so badly? When did Tuesday afternoon become mine? I looked out across the yard. It didn't flip. She frowned. I said, "It changed on the days when it looked like nothing was happening." The morning I made coffee instead of buying it, nothing happened. The $50 that disappeared automatically after payday, nothing happened. The day I didn't sell when the market fell, nothing happened. The Sunday nights I updated a spreadsheet nobody cared about, nothing happened. The years I kept my old car, nothing happened. The evenings I learned one more piece of equipment, nothing happened. The months I kept expenses low when income increased, nothing happened. And that was the point, because eventually, all those days when nothing happened became my life. Naomi didn't say much after that. She just nodded, and I understood something else. She hadn't failed. There was no villain in this story. She had simply made thousands of small decisions too. So had I. And small decisions don't stay small when you give them 15 years. After Naomi left, I sat on the porch until the sun dropped lower. Then I opened my wallet. The $20 bill was still there. 15 years. I thought about the 22-year-old version of me standing in that discount store near a bus stop, embarrassed about a $35 bank fee, eating noodles, watching everyone else seem to move faster. He thought he was protecting $20. He wasn't. He was building proof. The world usually notices discipline late. It notices when you buy the house, when you quit the job, when your business works, when your investment account becomes large, when you suddenly have free time on a Tuesday. People see the visible result and imagine something dramatic must have happened. But wealth usually isn't built during the dramatic days. It's built on a normal Wednesday when you keep the promise. It's built when your account still looks small, when nobody compliments you, when the old car is embarrassing, when the market drops, when someone else gets the promotion, when your progress isn't impressive enough to tell anyone about. Those are the days that matter. Because one ordinary decision doesn't change a life, but an ordinary decision repeated for 15 years almost has to. Somewhere right now, there is probably a 22-year-old sitting in a cheap apartment with thin walls. Maybe they have a bus pass on the table. Maybe their phone screen is cracked. Maybe they just got paid $9 or $10 an hour. Maybe there is $20 in their wallet, and nobody is watching what they do next. There will be no applause, no photograph, no proof that today's decision matters. Not yet. I hope they keep the 20. Not because $20 will make them rich, but because keeping one promise to yourself can become a dangerous habit, And tomorrow morning, whether they feel successful or not, the alarm will still ring. 6:15 a.m. And another ordinary day begins. Fade to black.